Welcome to Dreamy History. Here's the thing that blows my mind about the Maya. When most people hear the name, they immediately think of a quote zero, a people who mysteriously vanished, leaving behind crumbling jungle temples and an unresolved enigma. It's a compelling, almost romantic notion, conjured from adventure films and popular documentaries. But here's the stark, fascinating contradiction that nobody truly grapples with. The Maya didn't disappear. Not in the way we imagine, at least. Their cities, yes, many of them were abandoned, swallowed by the relentless jungle. Their grand dynasties ceased to rule. The intricate calendar systems that tracked cosmic cycles fell into disuse in many places. Yet, the Maya people themselves, their descendants, still number in the millions today, speaking dozens of distinct Mayan languages, maintaining vibrant cultures, and living in the very lands their ancestors settled millennia ago. So the real mystery isn't if they vanished, but why. Their magnificent classic-era cities, those beacons of astronomical knowledge and architectural prowess, collapsed. What forces were powerful enough to unravel a civilization that had mastered its environment, developed one of the world's most sophisticated writing systems, and built monumental cities without metal tools or the wheel? And what does it say about human resilience that, despite such a profound societal upheaval, the people endured, adapted, and continued their story? This isn't just about ancient ruins. It's about the deep cycles of human civilization, the delicate balance between innovation and environment, and the persistent spirit of a culture that refused to be erased by time or circumstance. It's a story of beginnings as dizzying heights, profound challenges, and an enduring legacy. If you're enjoying this journey through history, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And I'm always curious. Drop a comment letting me know what city and time zone you're watching from. There's something special about knowing this story is reaching people all over the world. Let's start with the obvious question nobody asks. How far back does the quote one of the Maya actually go? We often jump straight to the towering pyramids and intricate glyphs of the classic period, but that's like starting the story of Europe with the Roman Empire. The foundations of Maya civilization stretch back into a deep, misty past, long before any king sat on a jaguar throne or any astronomer carved a calendar. We're talking about beginnings around 2600 BCE, maybe even earlier, when the first hunter-gatherer groups began to settle in what we now call Mesoamerica, a vast cultural area spanning from central Mexico down through Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, and parts of Honduras. Specifically, the earliest Maya roots are found in the lowlands of the Yucatan Peninsula and the highlands of Guatemala, a region of incredible ecological diversity, from dense tropical rainforests to volcanic mountains. Think about this for a second. 2600 BCE. That's roughly the same time the Great Pyramid of Giza was being built in Egypt. But while the Egyptians had the Nile and its predictable floods, the early Maya were figuring out how to live in a landscape that was both incredibly fertile and incredibly challenging. Their survival, and eventually their flourishing, hinged on one revolutionary crop: maize. This wasn't just a food source, it was a cosmic gift, the very essence of life according to their later myths. By around 2000 BCE, small scattered villages were forming, their inhabitants cultivating domesticated maize, beans, and squash. This shift from nomadic hunting and gathering to settled agriculture was the first great turning point. It allowed for population growth, the accumulation of surplus food, and crucially, the time and stability for more complex social structures to emerge. We see evidence of this in early pottery shards and simple burial sites, not yet monumental, but hinting at a shared identity and developing rituals. The period from roughly 2000 BCE to 300 CE is what archaeologists call the Preclassic, or formative, period. And within this vast stretch of time we witness the slow, deliberate genesis of Maya culture. The first millennium BCE was particularly pivotal. Villages grew into larger settlements, then into towns. This wasn't a sudden explosion, but an organic, gradual expansion driven by successful agriculture and increasing population density. People began to organize their lives beyond the immediate family, forming clans, and eventually more defined social hierarchies. We don't have written records from this early period to tell us about kings or political intrigue, but the archaeological record speaks volumes. For instance, the presence of more elaborate burials, sometimes with grave goods like jade or finely crafted pottery, suggests the emergence of individuals with higher status, perhaps early chiefs, shamans, or influential elders. These weren't kings in the later sense, but rather figures who commanded respect and probably played crucial roles in mediating disputes, organizing communal labor, and connecting the community to the spiritual world. One of the most fascinating aspects of this early development is the influence of a neighboring civilization, the Olmec. While the Maya were developing their own distinct culture, the Olmec, centered in the Gulf Coast lowlands of Mexico, were already building impressive ceremonial centers like La Venta and San Lorenzo. They were carving colossal basalt heads, developing early forms of writing, and pioneering complex calendrical systems. Historians debate whether the Olmec were a quote two that directly spawned the Maya, or more of a quote three with whom the Maya shared a common Mesoamerican heritage and exchanged ideas. Regardless, the evidence of Olmec influence on early Maya sites is undeniable. We see similar artistic motifs, shared religious iconography, and, most importantly, the foundational concepts of a complex worldview that would later define the Maya, a fascination with the cosmos, the importance of ritual, and the concept of sacred kingship. This isn't to say the Maya merely copied, rather they absorbed, adapted, and innovated upon these shared traditions, weaving them into their own unique tapestry. This period also saw the first stirrings of monumental architecture. We're not talking about pyramids yet, but rather large raised platforms of earth and stone, often topped with perishable wooden structures. These early constructions were likely communal gathering places, perhaps for ceremonies or important community meetings. They represent a significant investment of labor and organization, suggesting that these early Maya towns were developing sophisticated leadership structures capable of mobilizing workers for public projects. The very act of building together would have reinforced community bonds and a shared sense of identity. The Maya worldview, even at this nascent stage, was deeply intertwined with their environment. They observed the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars, understanding their profound impact on agriculture and daily life. This careful observation laid the groundwork for the incredibly precise astronomical and calendrical systems that would become a hallmark of their later civilization. By the end of the Preclassic period, around 300 CE, these scattered villages and towns had begun to coalesce into something much grander. These subtle shifts, from simple burial mounds to more elaborate ceremonial platforms, from communal gathering spaces to structures that hint at nascent political power, were setting the stage. The Maize Revolution had provided the caloric surplus. The Olmec exchange had provided intellectual stimulus, and the challenges of the tropical environment had forged a resilient and ingenious people. The groundwork was meticulously laid, brick by invisible brick, for the dramatic flourishing that was to come. But how did these humble beginnings blossom into such a sophisticated, stargazing civilization, capable of erecting true pyramids and crafting an empire of ideas? That's where our journey takes us next, into the astonishing rise of kings, cities, and the very concept of time itself. Alright, buckle up, because if you thought the groundwork laid in the Preclassic was impressive, you haven't seen anything yet. We left off around 300 CE, the Maya people having spent centuries refining agriculture, developing social structures, and absorbing the brilliant seeds of knowledge from their Olmec neighbours. The stage, my friends, was set. The curtain was poised to rise on one of humanity's most astonishing acts of civilization. And rise it did. What we call the Classic period, roughly spanning from 300 CE to 900 CE, isn't just a chapter in Maya history, it's the grand epic. This is when the Maya truly exploded onto the world stage, not with gunpowder or steel, but with an intellectual and architectural brilliance that still leaves us breathless. Forget everything you thought you knew about quote 4 jungle societies. Here, in the heart of Mesoamerica, a civilization was about to achieve heights that, in many ways, rivaled and even surpassed contemporary powers across the globe. Think about this for a second. A sophisticated culture without the wheel, as we know it for transport, without metal tools for construction, without beasts of burden, in a challenging tropical environment, built cities that were wonders of the ancient world. They charted the heavens with pinpoint accuracy, developed a writing system of elegant complexity, and conceived of abstract mathematical concepts that wouldn't appear in Europe for centuries. How is that possible? That's the question that fuels my passion, and it's the journey we're about to embark on together. The defining characteristic of the Classic period wasn't a unified empire, but a network of independent, often competing city-states. Imagine ancient Greece, but nestled in the verdant embrace of the jungle. Each city, like Tikal, Palenque, Copan, or Calakmul, was a powerful entity, ruled by a divine king, the Kuhul Ajau. These kings weren't just political leaders, they were seen as living bridges between the mortal realm and the cosmos, descended from gods, responsible for maintaining the delicate balance of the universe through ritual, warfare, and monumental construction. Their power and legitimacy were literally etched in stone. Walk with me virtually through one of these burgeoning cities around, say, 600 CE. We're not talking about scattered huts. We're talking about vast urban centres, meticulously planned and painstakingly built. At the heart of each city was a sprawling ceremonial core, a sacred landscape of towering pyramids, ornate temples, sprawling palaces, and vast plazas. These weren't just buildings, they were cosmic maps, aligned with celestial events, designed to elevate the human spirit and connect it to the divine. Picture the great plaza of Tikal, for instance, dominated by the majestic Temple 1 and Temple 2, facing each other across a vast open space. These aren't just piles of stone, they are carefully engineered structures, often built atop earlier constructions, symbolizing continuity and growth. They served as temples, royal tombs, and observatories. Surrounding them would be administrative buildings, residential complexes for the elite, and the ubiquitous ball courts, not just for sport, but for ritualistic games that reenacted creation myths and cosmic battles. The sheer scale of these constructions is mind-boggling. Think about the hundreds of thousands of cubic feet of limestone quarried, carved, and lifted into place using only human ingenuity and basic tools. It speaks volumes about the organization, labor, and collective will of the Maya people. Every stone was a testament to their devotion, their engineering prowess, and their ability to organize complex societies. But the Maya weren't just master builders, they were master thinkers. This period saw the full blossoming of their intellectual achievements. Let's talk about their writing system, a true marvel. Unlike the alphabetic systems we're familiar with, Maya script was logosyllabic, meaning it combined logograms, symbols representing entire words or concepts, with syllabic glyphs, symbols representing sounds. It's elegant, complex, and incredibly beautiful. Imagine trying to decipher a language where a single glyph could represent quote 5 and also represent the sound quote 6. Talk about a challenge for archaeologists, right? But thanks to the tireless work of epigraphers, we can now read a significant portion of these texts, unlocking the voices of the ancient Maya themselves. What did they write about? Everything. Royal histories, dynastic lineages, monumental dates, astronomical observations, religious rituals, mythological narratives, and even propaganda celebrating the victories of their kings. They carved these glyphs onto towering stelae, carved stone monuments, altars, lintels, pottery, and even painted them onto murals and in precious codices, bark paper books, only a few of which survived the Spanish conquest. These texts are our direct window into their world, allowing us to reconstruct their history, their beliefs, and their daily lives with an astonishing level of detail. And speaking of detail, let's dive into their understanding of time. The Maya calendrical systems are legendary for their precision. We already touched on the calendar round, the 260-day Tzolkin and the 365-day Harb. But during the Classic period, they fully utilized the long count. This linear count of days from a mythical starting point, August 11th, 3114 BCE by our Gregorian calendar, allowed them to record events deep into the past and project them far into the future. Each date was unique, like a serial number for a specific moment in cosmic time. Here's the thing that blows my mind. They understood cycles of time that extended for thousands, even millions of years, far beyond the scope of any single human life. Why? Because they saw time not as a linear progression, but as an intricate dance of cosmic cycles, and understanding these cycles was crucial to maintaining harmony with the universe. To track these cycles, they needed advanced mathematics, and they had it. The Maya developed a sophisticated vigesimal, base 20 number system, and crucially, they independently conceived of the concept of zero, long before it was widely adopted in Europe. Think about the power of zero. It allows for positional notation, enabling the representation of incredibly large numbers with relative ease. This wasn't just an abstract concept, it was a practical tool, essential for their astronomical calculations and calendrical precision. Their astronomy, in turn, was nothing short of astonishing. From their observatories, often integrated into their temples and palaces, they tracked the movements of the Sun, Moon, Venus, and other planets with incredible accuracy. They could predict eclipses, determine solstices and equinoxes, and understand the complex cycles of celestial bodies. This wasn't just academic curiosity, it was deeply intertwined with their religion and their concept of divine kingship. The movements of the heavens were seen as reflections of the will of the gods, and kings, by aligning their actions and their cities with these cosmic rhythms, reinforced their sacred authority. Beyond the grand architecture and intellectual achievements, the classic Maya also developed sophisticated agricultural techniques to feed their growing populations. They weren't just slash-and-burn farmers. They innovated with terracing on hillsides, raised fields in swampy areas, and intricate irrigation systems to maximize crop yields. Maize remained king, but they also cultivated beans, squash, chili peppers, cotton, and cacao, the food of the gods and a valuable trade commodity. And trade was robust. Networks crisscrossed Mesoamerica, exchanging obsidian for tools and weapons, jade for ritual objects and adornments, salt, feathers of tropical birds, and of course, cacao. These trade routes weren't just economic arteries, they were cultural conduits, facilitating the exchange of ideas, artistic styles, and religious concepts, further enriching the diverse tapestry of Maya civilization. Society during this period was highly stratified, but also highly specialized. At the apex were the Kuhulajau, the divine kings, supported by a powerful nobility, priests and scribes who managed the complex rituals, administrative duties, and intellectual pursuits. Below them were skilled artisans, potters, sculptors, painters, weavers, who produced the exquisite artifacts that defined Maya aesthetics. And at the base, the vast majority were the farmers, the backbone of society, whose labour sustained the entire system. Religion permeated every aspect of Maya life. The cosmos was a multi-layered structure, with the heavens above, the earthly realm, and the dark, mysterious underworld below. Their pantheon was rich and complex, with gods associated with creation, maize, rain, sun, moon, and death. Rituals, often involving bloodletting by the elite, were essential to nourish the gods and maintain cosmic order. The sacred ball game, played in dedicated courts throughout their cities, was more than just a sport. It was a ritual reenactment of mythological events, sometimes culminating in the sacrifice of the losing team's captain, a profound act meant to ensure fertility and the continuation of life. This, then, was the classic period, a time when the Maya, building on centuries of development, achieved a spectacular flourishing of culture, science, and art. They created a civilization of unparalleled sophistication in their region, proving that human ingenuity knows no bounds, even when faced with environmental challenges and without the, quote, 7 technologies we often associate with, quote, 8 civilizations. They carved their history into stone, gazed at the stars with profound understanding, and built cities that rose like mountains from the jungle floor. It was a golden age, a testament to human resilience, intellectual curiosity, and an enduring connection to the natural and cosmic world. But as with all golden ages, it contained the seeds of its own future, both glorious and challenging. The very competition that fueled much of this innovation between city-states would also become a source of profound stress. But for now, let's just stand in awe of what the Maya accomplished. What an incredible journey, wouldn't you agree? And so we arrive at the precipice of one of history's most enduring mysteries, and one of its most widely misunderstood. We've seen the classic Maya rise to dizzying heights, their ingenuity etched into stone and their wisdom charted across the cosmos. We've admired their divine kings, their towering pyramids, their intricate calendars, and their profound understanding of a world without advanced tools. But as I hinted, the very competition that fueled their innovation, the intense rivalry between these magnificent city-states, would eventually become a profound stressor. Here's the thing that blows my mind, and I think it will yours too. For centuries, the classic period was a golden age, a testament to human potential. Then, between roughly 800 and 1000 CE, something dramatic happened in the southern Maya lowlands. The grand cities we've discussed, Tikal, Palenque, Copan, Calakmul, those monumental centers of power and learning began to decline. Construction stopped. The carving of stele ceased. Populations dwindled, and eventually these once vibrant urban hubs were abandoned, swallowed by the relentless jungle. Now, pause for a second. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Maya collapse? If you're like most people, you probably picture something sudden, catastrophic, perhaps even supernatural. An alien invasion, a great plague, a sudden drought that wiped everyone out, or maybe they just packed up and left for another dimension. It's the stuff of Hollywood blockbusters and ancient alien theories, isn't it? The image of a lost civilization is incredibly seductive, conjuring up images of ancient ruins shrouded in impenetrable jungle, their secrets forever locked away. But let's be clear, right here, right now, the Maya did not vanish. Not then, not ever. This is the single most crucial point I want you to take away from this entire discussion. The classic Maya collapse, and we use that term carefully, was not a single event, nor was it a sudden disappearance of an entire people. It was a complex, multi-decadal, even multi-century process that primarily affected the southern lowland cities. Millions of Maya people continued to live, adapt, and thrive elsewhere, and their descendants are still here today. So if it wasn't a sudden, mysterious vanishing act, what did happen? What brought down these seemingly invincible city-states? This is where the story gets really fascinating, because it's a cautionary tale about the delicate balance between human ambition, societal structure, and the environment. Scholars have debated this for decades, and while there's no single, universally accepted answer, the consensus points to a confluence of interconnected factors, a perfect storm, if you will. Let's dive into some of the leading theories. First, and perhaps most compellingly, we need to talk about environmental stress and climate change. Imagine yourself living in the southern lowlands, a region characterized by a seasonal tropical climate. There's a wet season, which brings life-giving rains, and a dry season. The Maya, with their sophisticated agricultural techniques, managed to feed vast populations for centuries. But as their populations grew, so did the pressure on the land. They practiced intensive agriculture, including slash-and-burn techniques, terracing, and raised fields in wetlands, all incredibly ingenious methods. But think about the scale. To feed millions of people, you need immense amounts of land, and you need to manage it carefully. Over time, extensive deforestation would have occurred. Trees weren't just cleared for fields, they were vital for fuel, for building materials, think about those massive temples, and for producing stucco for their elaborate decorations. Removing vast tracts of forest changes the local microclimate. It reduces the ability of the land to retain moisture, leading to soil erosion and nutrient depletion. The very foundation of their agricultural system would have been slowly undermined. And then drought. Paleoclimate data, gleaned from lakebed sediments and stalagmites in caves, reveals a series of severe, prolonged droughts that coincided precisely with the period of classic Maya decline. We're talking about decades, sometimes even a century, of significantly reduced rainfall. Now couple that with widespread deforestation and an already stressed agricultural system. What do you get? Crop failures, famine, thirsty people, thirsty crops. This wasn't just a bad year. This was a generational struggle against a hostile environment. Imagine trying to sustain a complex civilization with its elaborate rituals, its massive construction projects, its divine kings, when the very ground beneath your feet is drying up and your people are starving. It's a truly chilling thought. But environmental factors alone don't tell the whole story. We also need to consider political instability and intensified warfare. Remember how I mentioned the competition between city-states? In the early classic period, this rivalry often manifested as ritualized warfare, sometimes involving the capture of elites for sacrifice. It was a way to assert dominance and gain prestige. But as resources became scarcer, especially during periods of drought, that competition likely escalated. Think about it. If your fields aren't producing and your people are hungry, what's a king to do? You might raid your neighbour's territory for resources for captives, or simply to eliminate a rival. Archaeological evidence such as defensive walls built around cities, mass graves, and iconography depicting brutal battles suggests that warfare became more frequent, more destructive, and less ritualized during the late classic period. This constant state of conflict would have disrupted trade routes, displaced populations, and further strained already scarce resources. The political landscape, once a complex web of alliances and rivalries, may have fractured irrevocably. And let's not forget the role of the Kuhul Ajau, the divine kings. Their legitimacy was tied to their ability to communicate with the gods, to ensure prosperity, and to maintain cosmic order. If the rains failed year after year, if crops withered, if war became constant and devastating, the people might begin to question the king's divine connection. The social contract would unravel. We see evidence of this in some areas, where monuments celebrating kingship simply stop being erected, or where royal palaces show signs of deliberate desecration. The very system that had brought them to such heights may have become a vulnerability in times of crisis. Finally, we can't ignore the factor of population growth. While the Maya were ingenious in their agricultural practices, there's a limit to how many people any given environment can sustain, especially with pre-industrial technology. For centuries, populations in the southern lowlands had been steadily increasing, leading to larger cities and more extensive agricultural demands. When the environmental and political pressures hit, these dense populations would have been particularly vulnerable. More mouths to feed, fewer resources, more potential for conflict. It's a classic Malthusian dilemma playing out on a grand scale. So when we talk about the classic Maya collapse, we're talking about a complex interplay of these factors. Prolonged droughts exacerbated by widespread deforestation and intensive agriculture, leading to resource depletion and famine, which in turn fueled intensified warfare and political instability, ultimately undermining the authority of the divine kings and causing the disintegration of the state system in the southern lowlands. It wasn't a single asteroid strike or a sudden plague. It was a slow, grinding process unfolding over generations. What does this mean for the people? Did they just lie down and die? Absolutely not. Remember, the Maya are incredibly resilient. As the great cities of the southern lowlands became unsustainable, people didn't vanish. They adapted. They migrated. They dispersed into smaller settlements, often moving to areas with more reliable water sources or less intense political competition. They carried their knowledge, their traditions, their languages, and their way of life with them. The jungle reclaimed the grand plazas and towering pyramids, but the people endured. And here's where the narrative takes another fascinating turn, one that truly emphasizes the continuity of Maya civilization. While the southern lowlands experienced this profound decline, things were quite different in the northern Yucatan Peninsula. In this region, which had a different ecological profile and perhaps a more decentralized political structure, new cities began to rise, or existing ones flourished with renewed vigor. Think about places like Chichen Itza, Uxmal, and Mayapan. These cities, located hundreds of miles north of the crumbling classic centers, would become the powerhouses of the Postclassic period. They developed distinct architectural styles, sometimes incorporating influences from central Mexico, and evolved different political structures, often moving away from the absolute rule of the divine Kuhul Ajo towards more collective forms of governance. This wasn't the end of Maya civilization. It was a transformation, a shift in its geographical and political heartland. The 12th of the classic Maya, then, is less about an ending and more about a profound metamorphosis. It's a testament to the incredible adaptability of a people facing immense challenges. They didn't disappear into thin air. They didn't vanish into the jungle without a trace. They simply reorganized, regrouped, and rebuilt, carrying the torch of their remarkable civilization into a new era. This distinction between the collapse of specific urban centers and political systems and the endurance of a people and their culture is crucial for understanding the true history of the Maya, and it's what makes their story so much more compelling than any myth of a lost civilization could ever be. Now, as we move into the post-classic period, we'll see how the Maya continued to innovate, to build, and to thrive, even in the shadow of past glories and in the face of new challenges. The saga of the Maya is far from over. It's merely entering its next vibrant chapter. We left off with a profound truth, didn't we? The so-called quote 13 wasn't an end, but a grand, complex metamorphosis. While the magnificent cities of the southern lowlands faded, their people, their knowledge, their very essence didn't vanish into the mists of time. Oh no, my friends, They adapted, they migrated, they carried their vibrant culture, their ingenious systems, and their unbreakable spirit north to the Yucatan Peninsula, where a new chapter of Maya history was already being written. And what a chapter it was! Welcome then to the Postclassic period, roughly spanning from 900 CE to 1539 CE. If the Classic era was the flourishing of divine kings and monumental inscriptions, the Postclassic was a testament to resilience, adaptation, and a dynamic renegotiation of power, trade, and identity. This wasn't a decline, it was a shift, a renaissance in a new landscape, proving once again that the Maya were anything but static. Think about this for a second. Imagine if, after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the centres of power and innovation simply moved to a different region of Europe, evolving new forms of governance and artistic expression, rather than the entire civilization vanishing. That's a bit like what happened here. The Maya didn't disappear, they just changed addresses and in many ways reinvented themselves. The northern Yucatan presented a different set of environmental challenges and opportunities. While still tropical, it featured a drier climate, less dense rainforest, and a unique karst topography characterized by cenotes, natural sinkholes that provided crucial access to groundwater. This wasn't a blank slate. Maya communities had been present here for centuries, but now they became the epicenter of a revitalized civilization, and nowhere was this revitalization more spectacularly evident than in cities like Chichen Itza and Cayenne Uxmal. Let's start with Chichen Itza, a name you've almost certainly heard. It's one of the most iconic Maya sites, a UNESCO World Heritage Gem that still draws millions. But here's the thing that often gets misunderstood. Chichen Itza flourished after the Classic collapse in the south. It rose to prominence as a major political, economic, and religious hub, demonstrating a fascinating synthesis of traditional Maya culture with new influences. Walking through Chichen Itza today, you can't help but be struck by its grandeur. The towering El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan, is a masterpiece of astronomical alignment. Its 91 steps on each of its 4 sides, plus the top platform, totaling 365, one for each day of the solar year. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts shadows that create the illusion of a serpent, Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity, slithering down the northern staircase. It's not just architecture, it's a cosmic clock, a mathematical marvel, and a profound spiritual statement. But look closely, and you'll notice something different here. While undeniably Maya, Chichen Itza also exhibits strong architectural and artistic influences from central Mexico, particularly from the Toltec civilization. We see warrior imagery, feathered serpent motifs. Kukulkan is the Yucatec Maya equivalent of the central Mexican Quetzalcoatl, and architectural elements like chacmuls, reclining figures with bowls on their stomachs, believed to be receptacles for offerings. This blend suggests a period of intense interaction, perhaps through trade, migration, or even conquest, with groups like the Putun Maya, also known as Chontal Maya, who were seafaring traders with connections along the Gulf Coast. This Mexicanization is what makes Chichen Itza so unique. It wasn't a pure classic Maya city, but a dynamic cosmopolitan center that embraced new ideas while retaining its deep Maya roots. The political structure also seems to have evolved. While the classic divine kingship waned, Chichen Itza appears to have been governed by a council, a system known as multipalas, or quote, 15, where power was shared among several elite lineages. This shift from a single, all-powerful king to a more collective leadership might have been an adaptation to the lessons learned from the classic period's political instability. These great ball courts at Chichen Itza, the largest in Mesoamerica, is another stunning example of this post-classic vitality. Imagine the roar of the crowds, the thud of the rubber ball, the high stakes of a game where victory could mean immense honour, and for some, even ritual sacrifice. This was not just a sport, it was a sacred ritual, a reenactment of cosmic battles deeply embedded in the Maya worldview. Not far from Chichen Itza, another magnificent city blossomed. Uxmal. If Chichen Itza was the bustling cosmopolitan hub, Uxmal was its more refined, architecturally pure Maya counterpart, a breathtaking example of what's known as Puuc-style architecture. The Puuc region, characterized by its rolling hills, gave rise to a distinct and exquisite architectural tradition. Known for its elaborate stone mosaics, intricate geometric patterns, and detailed depictions of gods, especially the rain deity Chak, whose long hook-nosed mask adorns countless facades. Uxmal's Pyramid of the Magician, with its unique oval base and gracefully rounded corners, stands as a testament to Maya ingenuity and aesthetic brilliance. Legend says it was built in a single night by a dwarf magician, but the reality, centuries of skilled labour and advanced engineering, is far more impressive. Then there's the Governor's Palace, often considered one of the most beautiful buildings in ancient Mesoamerica, with its vast, intricately carved facade stretching over 300 feet. The Nunnery Quadrangle. Another Puuc masterpiece consists of 4 buildings surrounding a courtyard, each adorned with breathtaking stone mosaics, creating a symphony of light and shadow, myth and history. Uxmal, like Chichen Itza, thrived on trade and agriculture, but its political structure may have been more akin to the classic period's independent city-states, albeit without the same emphasis on a single divine king. Its beauty and sophistication remind us that even as political systems shifted, the Maya's artistic and architectural genius continued to reach dizzying heights. However, the post-classic period, like all epochs, was not without its own cycles of rise and fall. After centuries of dominance, both Chichen Itza and Uxmal eventually declined, their reasons still debated by scholars. Perhaps internal strife, shifts in trade routes, or renewed environmental pressures played a role. But as these great cities waned, another power rose to prominence. Mayapan. Around 1200 CE, Mayapan emerged as the dominant political centre in the northern Yucatan, and it was a different kind of city altogether. Unlike the sprawling, monumental centres of the classic or early post-classic, Mayapan was a densely populated, walled city, more urbanised and perhaps more focused on practical defence. Its architecture, while still Maya, was less grand, more functional, mimicking earlier styles but on a smaller scale. Think of it as a later medieval European city, more concerned with fortifications and concentrated living than with monumental, widely dispersed ceremonial centres. Mayapan's political structure was also unique, often described as a, quote, 17 or a confederacy, where power was held by a council of ruling families, primarily the Copan lineage, who controlled a vast network of tributary provinces. This system, while providing a period of stability and centralized control for about 250 years, ultimately proved to be its undoing. Internal rivalries, power struggles, and rebellions among the various noble houses eventually led to Mayapan's violent collapse around 1441 CE. The city was abandoned, its ruling families dispersed, and the Yucatan fragmented into numerous smaller independent city-states, or Cuchcabal. This fragmentation is key, my friends, because it set the stage for what was to come. When the Spanish arrived in the early 16th century, they did not find a unified Maya empire, but a patchwork of competing polities, often hostile to one another. This disunity, ironically, made the eventual conquest a protracted and brutal affair, as the Spanish had to conquer each independent state one by one, a process that would take over 170 years. Throughout the Postclassic, Maya culture continued to evolve. Trade became even more crucial, with extensive maritime networks connecting the Yucatan to the Gulf Coast, central Mexico, and even as far south as present-day Honduras and Costa Rica. Cacao beans, salt, cotton, obsidian, jade, and colourful feathers were among the prize commodities. While monumental stelae became less common, the Maya continued to produce exquisite pottery, intricate textiles, and, perhaps most importantly for us, codices, folding screen books made from bark paper, filled with hieroglyphic texts, astronomical tables, and ritual knowledge. Sadly, most of these priceless historical records were systematically destroyed by the Spanish conquistadors and missionaries, leaving us with only 4 known examples today. So what do we take away from the Postclassic? It's a period that utterly shatters the myth of a quote 18 or quote 19 civilization. It shows us a people who, faced with immense challenges, did not simply fade away. Instead, they adapted, innovated, and continued to thrive, building new cities, forging new political systems, and maintaining their profound connection to the cosmos. They demonstrated an incredible capacity for cultural continuity alongside dynamic change, proving that a civilization can transform without disappearing. The Maya were still very much present, their cities vibrant, their trade routes bustling, their astronomers still charting the heavens, and their scribes still documenting their history, when a new, unforeseen force appeared on the horizon. A force that would bring about the most dramatic and devastating turning point in their long and storied history. The arrival of the Europeans. But that, my friends, is a story for our next chapter. For now, let's marvel at the ingenuity and sheer tenacity of the Postclassic Maya, a civilization that simply refused to quit. We've journeyed through millennia, from the humble beginnings of maize cultivation to the dizzying heights of classic period city-states, and through the reinvention of the Postclassic era, culminating in the fragmented yet vibrant Cuchcabal of the Yucatan. We've seen cycles of rise, transformation, and adaptation, always driven by the ingenuity and resilience of the Maya people. But now, as we stand on the precipice of the 16th century, the stage is set for an encounter that will irrevocably alter the course of their history. Imagine, if you will, the scene. The year is 1511. The Caribbean waters, so familiar to the Maya traders for centuries, suddenly carry a different kind of vessel. A Spanish caravel shipwrecked off the coast of the Yucatan introduces the first Europeans to this land. While most of the crew are captured and sacrificed, 2 men, Geronimo de Aguilar and Gonzalo Guerrero, survive. Aguilar eventually escapes to join Cortés, but Guerrero, he integrates, marries a Maya woman, has children, and even fights against the Spanish when they return. Think about that for a second. A Spaniard choosing to become Maya, to defend their way of life against his own people. It's a powerful testament to the allure and strength of Maya culture, even in its fragmented state. These initial, often violent encounters were just a prelude. The true storm was brewing across the ocean. While the Spanish were busy conquering the Aztec Empire to the west, they slowly, relentlessly turned their gaze towards the Yucatan. And here's where a crucial distinction emerges, one that often gets lost in the grand narratives of conquest. When we talk about the conquest of the Maya, we're not talking about a single decisive campaign against a centralized empire, like the fall of Tenochtitlan. Oh no! This was something far more protracted, far more brutal, and far more indicative of the Maya's enduring spirit. The Spanish, led primarily by Francisco de Montejo and his family, El Adelantado, the senior, his son, El Mozo, the younger, and his nephew, El Sobrino, the nephew, began their serious attempts at conquering the Yucatan in 1527. But remember those Cuchcabal we discussed in the last chapter? Those independent, often rivalrous city-states? They were both a weakness and a strength for the Maya. A weakness because the Spanish could, and did, employ the age-old tactic of divide and conquer, playing one Maya lord against another, but also a profound strength because there was no single head to cut off, no single capital whose fall would lead to the collapse of the entire civilization. To conquer the Maya, the Spanish had to conquer dozens, then hundreds of individual communities, often fighting tooth and nail for every inch of jungle. The sheer difficulty of this conquest blows my mind. The Spanish, armed with steel swords, arquebuses, crossbows, and horses, weapons and animals previously unknown in Mesoamerica, faced a determined and sophisticated foe. The Maya, for their part, adapted quickly. They learned to dig pits to trap horses, to counter Spanish formations, and to use the dense jungle as their ally, turning familiar trails into deadly ambushes. This wasn't a quick subjugation. It was a grueling, decades-long struggle. The Montejos were repeatedly driven back, their settlements destroyed, their forces decimated. It took them over 2 decades to establish even a tenuous foothold in the northern Yucatan, finally founding Mérida in 1542 on the ruins of the Maya city of Tor. But let's be brutally honest. The most devastating weapon the Spanish brought wasn't steel or gunpowder. It was disease. Smallpox, measles, influenza, typhus, pathogens against which the indigenous populations had no immunity whatsoever. These invisible invaders swept through the Maya lands with horrifying speed and lethality, often preceding the actual arrival of Spanish soldiers. Entire villages were wiped out, populations plummeted by as much as 90% in some regions within a century of contact. Imagine the psychological impact, the societal breakdown, when elders, shamans, and leaders, the very repositories of wisdom and culture, were dying en masse. It's a tragedy of unimaginable scale, and it severely weakened the Maya's ability to resist the physical conquest. Even after the establishment of Mérida and other colonial towns, resistance continued fiercely. The Itza Maya, for example, maintained their independence in the Petén Basin, modern-day Guatemala, for another 150 years. their capital of Tayasel remaining a beacon of Maya sovereignty until its final conquest in 1697. Think about that. Almost 2 centuries of continuous resistance against a global empire. It's a testament to their unwavering spirit, their deep connection to their land, and their refusal to simply fade away. Once conquered, the Spanish imposed a new order, a colonial system designed to extract wealth and control the population. The encomienda system, for instance, granted Spanish colonists the right to collect tribute and labor from specific Maya communities, effectively enslaving them under the guise of quote 25, quote unquote 26, quote, Maya lands were seized, their traditional agricultural practices disrupted, and their labor diverted to Spanish plantations and mines. Perhaps even more destructive, though, was the assault on Maya culture and spirituality. Catholic missionaries, primarily Franciscans and Dominicans, embarked on a fervent campaign to convert the Maya. This wasn't just about introducing a new religion. It was about eradicating the old. Maya temples were torn down, their stones often repurposed for churches. Priceless codices, those incredible repositories of Maya history, astronomy, and ritual knowledge, were systematically gathered and burned in massive auto da fe, most infamously by Bishop Diego de Landa in Mani in 1562. He later tried to atone by documenting what he could, but the damage was done. Imagine burning the Library of Alexandria, but worse, because these were the living records of a vibrant, complex civilization. This systematic destruction created an immense void, a deliberate severing of the Aya from their written past. Yet, here's the astonishing thing. The Maya did not break. They adapted as they always had. They found ways to preserve their beliefs, often by weaving them into the fabric of the new religion. We see this in the syncretism that defines Maya Catholicism today, where ancient deities might be associated with Catholic saints, where rituals blend Christian and indigenous elements, and where the sacred landscape continues to hold profound meaning. They kept their languages alive, passing down oral histories and traditional knowledge from generation to generation, often in secret. They continued to practice their ceremonies in hidden places, away from the watchful eyes of the missionaries. The colonial period, roughly 1521 to 1821, was a time of immense suffering, exploitation, and cultural suppression for the Maya. Their political structures were dismantled, their kings replaced by Spanish administrators, and their societies reorganized to serve the colonial machine. Yet, through it all, the Maya identity persisted. They mounted numerous rebellions, some small and localized, others larger and more coordinated, demonstrating their continuous refusal to accept subjugation. These uprisings, though often brutally suppressed, were powerful assertions of their enduring spirit and their claim to their ancestral lands and traditions. So, when we look back at this period, we see not a quote 27 civilization, but one under siege, fighting tooth and nail for its survival. We see a people who, despite facing overwhelming odds, a foreign power with superior weaponry, devastating diseases, and an ideology intent on erasing their past, found ways to endure. They learned new agricultural techniques, adopted new tools, and even embraced elements of Spanish culture where it suited them, all while fiercely guarding the core of their identity. The end of Spanish colonial rule in the early 19th century brought a new set of challenges as independent nations emerged from the former colonies. For the Maya, this often meant a continuation of marginalization, exploitation, and land dispossession, now under the banners of their own national governments. But that, my friends, is a story for our next chapter, a story of continued struggle, adaptation, and the unwavering presence of the Maya in the modern world. For now, let's reflect on the incredible fortitude displayed during the long, dark shadow of the colonial era, a period that proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Maya were and remain an indomitable force of history. So, we've journeyed through millennia, from the deep roots of maize cultivation to the monumental classic cities, through periods of collapse and renaissance, and finally, the brutal crucible of the Spanish conquest. We left off with the Maya people, battered but unbroken, facing a new world under colonial rule. But here's the thing that often gets overlooked, the part of the story that truly defines their indomitable spirit. The fight didn't end when the Spanish flag was planted. In fact, for the Maya, the struggle for self-determination and cultural survival continued long after the official end of colonial rule, right up to, and including, today. Think about this for a second. When the nations of Mesoamerica gained independence from Spain in the early 19th century, did life suddenly become equitable for the indigenous Maya? Did the chains of oppression magically disappear? Absolutely not. For many Maya communities, the transition from Spanish colonial rule to independent national governments simply meant a change of oppressors. The new republics, often dominated by European-descended elites, inherited and perpetuated many of the colonial structures designed to exploit indigenous labor and resources. We saw how the encomienda system, and later the repartimiento, forced Maya people into grueling labor. Well, even after independence, these systems morphed. Debt peonage, forced labor on massive coffee or sugar plantations, and the systematic seizure of ancestral lands became the new normal. Imagine being told your land, your very heritage, now belonged to someone else, simply because they had a piece of paper and a government willing to enforce it. The Maya, who had lived on and cultivated these lands for thousands of years, were suddenly treated as trespassers in their own home. Their traditional communal land holdings were often broken up and sold off, forcing them into a cycle of poverty and dependence. This wasn't just economic hardship, it was a profound attack on their social fabric, their spiritual connection to the earth, and their very identity. The 19th and early 20th centuries were marked by numerous Maya uprisings and rebellions against these new forms of exploitation. The caste war of Yucatan, for example, which erupted in 1847, was a decades-long struggle where the Maya of the peninsula rose up against the Ladino, non-indigenous population, nearly driving them out. This wasn't some minor skirmish. It was a full-blown war for survival and autonomy, a testament to their refusal to be subjugated. While ultimately suppressed, these movements demonstrate a continuous thread of resistance woven throughout Maya history, a powerful echo of their resilience. Now, let's fast forward a bit, into the tumultuous 20th century. This period for many Maya communities brought a new wave of challenges, often far more brutal and systematic than anything they had faced before. In several Central American nations, particularly Guatemala, the Maya became targets during horrific civil conflicts. The Guatemalan Civil War, 1960 to 1996, is a particularly stark and tragic example. a dark chapter in human history where the Maya were caught in the crossfire and often directly targeted by the state. During this conflict, successive military regimes viewed the indigenous Maya as a threat, often conflating their traditional ways of life and their demands for basic rights with subversive communist ideologies. What followed was a genocidal campaign, particularly in the early 1980s, that saw entire Maya villages massacred, women systematically raped, and countless individuals disappeared. The sheer scale of the violence is staggering. Over 200,000 people were killed or disappeared, with over 80% of the victims being indigenous Maya. Imagine the terror, the loss, the deliberate attempt to eradicate a culture, a people, simply for existing. I remember reading survivor testimonies from this period, and they are heart-wrenching. People forced to flee their homes, hiding in the mountains, watching their communities burn. Yet, even in the face of such unimaginable atrocities, the Maya endured. They adapted, they resisted, they found ways to preserve their languages, their ceremonies, their knowledge, often in secret. They became refugees, both within their own country and across borders, carrying their heritage with them, refusing to let it die. This brings us to the present day, and this is where the story truly comes full circle, where we shatter that persistent myth of the lost civilization once and for all, because the Maya are not a people of the past, confined to crumbling jungle temples and ancient texts. They are a vibrant, diverse, and incredibly resilient people today. Look around Mesoamerica and you'll find millions of Maya people. Yes, millions. In Guatemala alone, over half the population identifies as Maya, speaking more than 20 distinct Maya languages. You'll find them in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, in Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, each community with its unique traditions, clothing, and dialects, yet all sharing a common thread of Maya heritage. They are farmers, artists, teachers, doctors, politicians, activists. They are integrating into the modern world while fiercely holding on to their ancestral roots. We see incredible movements for cultural revitalization happening right now. Maya scholars are reclaiming their history, deciphering ancient texts, and teaching their languages to younger generations. Artists are blending traditional techniques with contemporary expressions, creating stunning works that speak to both their past and their present. Activists are fighting for land rights, environmental protection, and political representation, ensuring their voices are heard in the halls of power. There are Maya language radio stations, television programs, and even social media influencers, all working to keep their culture alive and thriving in the digital age. Think about the profound significance of this. After millennia of evolution, centuries of colonial oppression, and decades of brutal civil war, the Maya are still here. Their languages, direct descendants of the languages spoken by the scribes of Tikal and Palenque, are still spoken. Their intricate weaving traditions, passed down through generations, still flourish. Their deep connection to the cosmos, their understanding of cycles and balance, continues to inform their worldview. This isn't just survival, it's a testament to the power of cultural identity, the strength of community, and an unyielding will to endure. The challenges, of course, persist. Poverty, discrimination, and lack of access to education and healthcare remain significant issues for many Maya communities. Environmental threats, like deforestation and climate change, directly impact their traditional lands and livelihoods. There's still a fight for full recognition and respect for their rights as indigenous peoples, for their unique legal and cultural systems to be honoured within the larger nation-states they inhabit. But what we've seen throughout this entire journey is that the Maya are masters of adaptation. They have faced every conceivable adversity: environmental collapse, political fragmentation, foreign conquest, genocide, and they have always found a way forward. Their history isn't just a story of ancient ruins. It's a living, breathing narrative of human resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring power of culture. So when you hear someone talk about the Los Maya, I hope you'll remember this journey we've taken together. I hope you'll remember the millions of Maya people who are very much not lost, but are instead vibrant, dynamic, and actively shaping their future. Their history isn't just a fascinating tale from the past, it's a powerful lesson for us all, a reminder that civilizations don't just disappear into the jungle. They evolve, they adapt, and through the unwavering spirit of their people, they continue to live, to teach, and to inspire. The Maya are here now, a living testament to an incredible history that continues to unfold before our very eyes. And that, my friends, is truly something to celebrate. We've journeyed together through millennia, haven't we? From the earliest whispers of maize cultivation in the deep past to the cosmic calculations of classic-era kings, through the crucible of collapse and conquest, and into the complex tapestry of the modern world. And what an incredible journey it has been. But here's the thing that truly brings it all home, the point that I want to leave ringing in your ears. The story of the Maya isn't a closed book, a dusty relic of a bygone age. Not even close. It's a living, breathing narrative unfolding right now, with millions of vibrant voices shaping its next chapters. You see, for so long, the popular imagination has painted a picture of the Maya as a, quote, 31 a mysterious people who vanished into the jungle mists. We've spent this entire journey dismantling that myth, piece by glorious piece. And now, as we stand at the precipice of the present and gaze into the future, we witness the ultimate testament to their resilience, the enduring, undeniable presence of the Maya people themselves. Think about this for a second. Millions of Maya people live across Mesoamerica today, in Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, and increasingly across the globe. They are farmers, teachers, artists, doctors, politicians, activists. They are mothers and fathers, children and elders, carrying forward a legacy that stretches back thousands of years. This isn't just about cultural survival, it's about cultural flourishing. How do we see this flourishing? Let's start with language. While Spanish is the dominant national language in many of these regions, Maya languages are far from extinct. In fact, there are over 30 distinct Maya languages still spoken today. From Quiche in the highlands of Guatemala to Yucatec Maya on the peninsula, these languages are not just communication tools, they are vessels for ancient knowledge, cosmology, storytelling, and identity. In many communities, children grow up speaking Maya at home, learning Spanish in school. There are incredible efforts underway, led by Maya scholars and educators, to revitalize these languages, to create new literature, to teach them in schools, and to bring them into the digital age. Imagine the richness of a language that has evolved over millennia, still spoken, still vibrant. It's truly astounding, And it's not just language. Traditional practices, far from being museum pieces, are interwoven into daily life. Take weaving, for instance. The intricate patterns and vibrant colours of Maya textiles, particularly from the Guatemalan highlands, are not merely decorative. Each huipil, woman's blouse, can tell a story, identify a village, or even convey aspects of a woman's marital status or social standing. These designs often echo ancient symbols and cosmological beliefs, connecting the wearer directly to their ancestors and the spiritual world. The techniques themselves, passed down through generations, are a living art form, a testament to skill and deep cultural meaning. When you see a Maya woman weaving on a backstrap loom, you're not just observing a craft. You're witnessing the continuity of an unbroken thread stretching back to the Preclassic era. Agriculture, too, remains a cornerstone. While modern farming methods have made inroads, many Maya communities still practice sustainable techniques rooted in ancient wisdom, like milpa systems, polyculture plots that grow maize, beans, and squash together, enriching the soil and providing a balanced diet. This deep understanding of the land, its cycles and its needs, is a direct inheritance from their ancestors, the ones who first domesticated maize and transformed their environment. This isn't just about food security, it's about a spiritual connection to Madre Tierra, Mother Earth, a reverence that permeates their world view. Spirituality, too, has adapted and endured. While the Spanish conquest brought Catholicism, many Maya communities practice a syncretic faith, blending Christian elements with ancestral Maya beliefs and rituals. You might see a Catholic saint adorned with offerings of copal incense, a traditional Maya offering, or witness ceremonies led by Maya spiritual guides, honouring the natural world, the ancestors and the calendar cycles, often in sacred caves or atop ancient ruins. These practices are a powerful affirmation that their spiritual heritage was never truly eradicated, but rather transformed and preserved in new forms. And what about the arts and intellectual pursuits? The Maya continue to produce incredible art, music, and literature. Contemporary Maya artists are gaining international recognition, blending traditional motifs with modern expressions. Maya writers are telling their own stories in their own languages, challenging stereotypes and offering new perspectives on their history and future. Filmmakers are using this camera to document their struggles and triumphs, ensuring their narratives are heard, not just interpreted by outsiders. This is a vibrant cultural renaissance, a testament to an indomitable creative spirit. But let's be clear, this endurance hasn't been easy. The post-colonial era, as we saw, brought new forms of oppression, discrimination, and violence. Even today, Maya community face significant challenges: poverty, lack of access to education and healthcare, political marginalization, and the ongoing threat of land dispossession for large-scale development projects like tourism or resource extraction. The scars of the Guatemalan Civil War, where Maya people were systematically targeted, are still raw. Yet, despite these immense pressures, the Maya people continue to organize, to advocate, and to fight for their rights. They form community organizations, participate in national and international political movements, and tirelessly work to protect their ancestral lands, languages, and cultures. This activism isn't just about survival, it's about self-determination, about reclaiming their narrative, and about ensuring a just and equitable future for generations to come. They remind us that history isn't just about what happened in the past, it's about the ongoing struggle for justice and recognition in the present. As we reflect on this entire history, from its primordial origins to its vibrant present, what can we learn from the Maya? For me, one of the most profound lessons is about resilience. Think about everything they've faced: environmental shifts, internal strife, the collapse of magnificent cities, devastating foreign invasion, centuries of oppression, and modern discrimination. Yet they adapted, innovated, preserved, and rebuilt. Their story is a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure, to find strength in community, and to maintain cultural identity against overwhelming odds. It's a story that reminds us that civilizations don't just quote 32, they transform, they adapt, and their people carry on. Another critical lesson is about environmental stewardship. The ancient Maya, despite their incredible achievements, also faced ecological challenges, particularly deforestation and drought, which contributed to the classic collapse. This historical experience, combined with millennia of living in intimate connection with their land, has imbued many Maya communities with a profound understanding of ecological balance. In a world grappling with climate change and environmental degradation, their traditional knowledge and sustainable practices offer invaluable insights. They teach us the importance of living in harmony with nature, not merely exploiting it. And then there's the sheer intellectual and artistic genius. The Maya developed a fully functional writing system, complex mathematics, and astonishingly accurate astronomy, all without the aid of metal tools or the wheel. Their architecture, their art, their calendrical systems, they all speak to an incredible capacity for abstract thought, meticulous observation, and profound artistic expression. They remind us that human ingenuity knows no bounds, and that progress isn't solely defined by Western technological advancements. So, where do we go from here, as observers of this incredible history? My hope is that this journey has not only enlightened you, but also inspired you to look beyond the sensationalized headlines and romanticized myths, inspired you to see the Maya not as an archaeological curiosity, but as a dynamic, living people with a profound legacy and a vibrant future. The quote of the Maya isn't their disappearance. It's the mystery of how they have endured, how they have maintained their languages, their traditions, their spiritual connections, and their identity through such immense challenges. It's a mystery that, once you truly understand it, transforms into an awe-inspiring testament to human tenacity and cultural depth. As we conclude this chapter, and indeed our entire exploration of the Maya civilization, I want to invite you to continue learning. Seek out contemporary Maya voices, read their literature, appreciate their art, support their struggles for land rights and self-determination. Visit their lands, not just as a tourist to crumbling ruins, but as a respectful guest to living communities. The Maya are here, they are thriving, and their story, far from being over, is still being written day by day by millions of incredible people who are the direct inheritors of one of the world's most sophisticated and resilient civilizations. Let's honor their past, celebrate their present, and support their future. Because truly understanding the Maya isn't just about understanding history, it's about understanding humanity itself. And that, my friends, is a journey well worth taking. Welcome back, my friends, to this incredible journey through the millennia of Maya civilization. We've navigated the misty origins, marveled at the classic period's zenith, witnessed the complex shifts of the Postclassic, endured the brutal colonial era, and acknowledged the heartbreaking struggles of the post-colonial period. But if you've been with me this far, you know the story doesn't end there, does it? Oh no, not by a long shot. In our last chapter, we touched upon the incredible, undeniable truth. The Maya are not a people of the past, confined to crumbling jungle temples and dusty museum exhibits. They are here now, millions strong, vibrant, and actively shaping their own future. Today, I want us to really lean into that truth. Let's dive deep into the living, breathing reality of contemporary Maya culture, examining how ancient traditions are not just surviving, but thriving, adapting, and influencing the world around us. This isn't just a story of resilience, it's a testament to profound ingenuity and an unyielding spirit. Think about this for a second. We've spent chapters marveling at their writing systems, their calendars, their astronomy, their architecture. But what happens when a culture, forced to adapt under centuries of oppression, begins to reclaim and revitalize those very foundations? What does that look like on the ground, in the villages, in the cities, in the hearts of millions? The first thing that strikes you if you spend any time in Mesoamerica today is the sheer linguistic diversity. Remember how we mentioned there are over 30 distinct Maya languages still spoken? That's not just a statistic. It's a living, breathing miracle. Each one is a unique window into a worldview, a repository of ancestral knowledge, stories, and ways of understanding the cosmos. For generations, these languages were suppressed, even forbidden in schools and public life. Children were punished for speaking their mother tongue. But today we see a powerful resurgence. Maya communities, often spearheaded by dedicated activists and educators, are establishing language schools, creating bilingual educational materials, producing radio programs, and even developing apps to teach and preserve these precious linguistic treasures. I've had the privilege of hearing Quiche, Cachiquel, Mam, and Yucatec Maya spoken in daily conversation, in markets, during ceremonies, and even in modern music. It's a sound that resonates with millennia of history, a direct line to the voices of those ancient astronomers and scribes we've talked about. And here's the thing that absolutely blows my mind. It's not just about preserving the past, it's about building the future. When a young Maya person learns to read and write in their ancestral language, they are not just connecting to their heritage, they are asserting their identity, strengthening their community, and enriching the global tapestry of human expression. It's an act of profound self-determination. Beyond language, the artistic traditions of the Maya are flourishing, often with breathtaking innovation. Take weaving, for example. For the ancient Maya, textiles were more than just clothing. They were visual narratives, coded messages, expressions of identity, status, and spiritual beliefs. Each huipil, traditional blouse, tells a story through its intricate patterns, colours, and motifs, often specific to a particular village or lineage. Today, Maya weavers, predominantly women, continue these ancient traditions, but they are also innovating, adapting designs, and finding new markets. They're forming cooperatives, ensuring fair trade practices, and using their art to empower their communities economically. You can see these magnificent creations not just in local markets, but in international galleries, on fashion runways, and in contemporary art installations. It's a powerful fusion of ancient aesthetics and modern entrepreneurship, a testament to the enduring power of human creativity. And it's not just textiles. Pottery, once a hallmark of classic Maya artistry, is experiencing a renaissance. Modern Maya potters, drawing inspiration from museum pieces and archaeological finds, are recreating and reinterpreting ancient forms and techniques, infusing them with contemporary meaning. Music, too, is a vibrant arena. While traditional instruments like flutes, drums, and rattles are still played in ceremonies and festivals, contemporary Maya musicians are blending these sounds with modern genres, rock, reggae, hip-hop, creating entirely new forms of cultural expression that speak to both their heritage and their present-day experiences. They're telling their stories in their voices to a global audience. But the revitalization goes deeper than language and art. It delves into the very core of Maya spirituality and connection to the land. Remember how deeply intertwined the ancient Maya were with the cosmos, with the cycles of nature, with their ancestors, and with the sacred maize. That profound worldview persists. While many Maya communities practice a syncretic form of Catholicism, blending indigenous beliefs with Christian elements, there's also a powerful movement to reclaim and openly practice pre-colonial spiritual traditions. Maya spiritual guides, or ajquijab, are once again conducting ceremonies at ancient sites, in sacred caves, and in community altars, honoring the ancestors, the elements, and the divine forces that govern the universe. They are guardians of an ancient wisdom, offering guidance and healing, and ensuring the continuity of a spiritual legacy that has survived centuries of attempts to eradicate it. This deep connection to the land is particularly relevant today, as Maya communities often find themselves on the front lines of environmental battles. Their ancestral territories, rich in biodiversity, are frequently targeted for logging, mining, and large-scale agricultural projects. Drawing on millennia of sustainable agricultural practices, Maya farmers and activists are leading the charge for environmental protection, advocating for indigenous land rights, and offering traditional ecological knowledge as a vital resource for addressing global climate change. They understand, perhaps better than anyone, that the health of the land is inextricably linked to the health of their people, a lesson their ancestors learned and embodied in their cycles of planting and honouring maize. This brings us to the political landscape. For too long, Maya people have been marginalised, their voices unheard, their rights trampled. But that is changing. Across Mesoamerica, Maya activists, lawyers, scholars, and community leaders are organising, advocating, and demanding political representation and self-determination. They are fighting for land rights, for access to education and healthcare in their own languages, and for an end to systemic discrimination. We see Maya mayors, congresspeople, and even judges slowly but surely breaking down barriers and ensuring that Maya perspectives are represented in the halls of power. It's a slow, often arduous process, fraught with challenges and even dangers, but the momentum is undeniable. Think about the sheer courage it takes to stand up against centuries of entrenched power structures, to demand recognition and justice for a people who were once declared extinct or primitive. It's an ongoing struggle, yes, and there are still immense challenges. Poverty, lack of infrastructure, continued racism, and the pressures of globalization. But the narrative has fundamentally shifted. The Maya are not waiting to be discovered or saved. They are actively reclaiming their narrative, reasserting their agency, and rebuilding their communities on their own terms. What does this mean for us, the observers, the students of history? It means that the story of the Maya is not just a fascinating historical account, it is a living lesson. It's a lesson in adaptability, in the enduring power of cultural identity, in the importance of community, and in the profound wisdom embedded in indigenous ways of knowing. When we look at the ancient Maya, we see their architectural marvels, their intellectual achievements. When we look at the contemporary Maya, we see the people who carried that legacy forward through unimaginable adversity, and who are now offering their profound insights to a world grappling with its own crises. They offer us models of sustainable living, rooted in a deep respect for the earth. They offer us alternative perspectives on time, community, and spirituality, reminding us that there are many ways to be human, many ways to connect to the sacred. Their cyclical understanding of time, for instance, isn't just a quaint ancient concept. It's a living philosophy that informs their approach to life, emphasizing renewal, interconnectedness, and the ongoing dance between past, present, and future. So, as we bring our grand tour of Maya history to a close, let's not view it as an ending, but as an open-ended invitation, an invitation to continue learning, to challenge our preconceived notions, and to support the incredible work being done by Maya communities today. The story of the Maya is far from over. It is unfolding right now, vibrant and dynamic, a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity for endurance, innovation, and rebirth. This is a civilization that built monumental cities without metal tools, charted the stars with breathtaking precision, and developed one of the world's most sophisticated writing systems. And then, when faced with collapse, conquest, and centuries of oppression, they persisted, they adapted, they survived, and now they are thriving, reminding us all that true strength lies not in conquest, but in connection, not in isolation, but in community, and not in forgetting, but in honouring the deep, rich tapestry of history that makes us who we are. The Maya are not a lost civilization. They are a living legacy, a beacon of human resilience and a profound source of wisdom for our collective future. And their story, my friends, is one we all need to hear, understand, and celebrate today, and for generations to come. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep celebrating the enduring spirit of the Maya. All right, my friends, we've journeyed through millennia, from the earliest maize planters to the dazzling city-states, through the resilience of the Postclassic and the brutal crucible of the conquest. We've seen the Maya adapt, migrate, resist, and rebuild, always defying the simplistic narrative of a lost civilization. But now we arrive at the most crucial part of our story, the part that brings everything we've learned crashing into the vibrant, complex, and often challenging reality of today, Guillaume. Because here's the thing that truly blows my mind, the ultimate debunking of that persistent myth. The Maya are not just survivors, they are thriving. They are not merely remnants, they are a dynamic, evolving civilization, actively shaping their own future while fiercely safeguarding their past. Millions of Maya people live across Mesoamerica right now, in Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador, and increasingly in diasporic communities around the globe. They are farmers, artists, teachers, doctors, lawyers, activists, politicians, and innovators. They are Duescas living in the 21st century, with a heritage that stretches back thousands of years. But let's be clear, this endurance has not come without immense struggle. The legacy of colonialism, exploitation, and discrimination didn't magically vanish with independence. In many ways, the post-colonial era has presented its own set of formidable challenges, forcing the Maya to continue their millennia-long fight for self-determination and dignity. Think about what it means to be an indigenous person in a nation often built on the suppression of your culture. For generations, Maya communities have faced systemic poverty, often relegated to the margins of national economies. They have been dispossessed of ancestral lands, critical for their traditional agricultural practices and spiritual connection to the earth. Resource extraction industries, logging, mining, hydroelectric projects frequently encroach upon their territories, threatening livelihoods and sacred sites, often without free, prior, and informed consent. It's a battle fought not with spears and obsidian blades, but with legal documents, protests, and an unwavering commitment to their collective future. And then there's the issue of political representation. Despite comprising a significant portion of the population in countries like Guatemala, Maya voices have historically been marginalized in national politics. Access to education, healthcare, and basic services is often unequal, perpetuating cycles of disadvantage. Just imagine the struggle to maintain your distinct language and cultural practices when the dominant society often pushes for assimilation, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly. I've spoken about the Guatemalan Civil War before, that horrific period from 1960 to 1996. It wasn't just a war. It was a targeted genocide against the Maya people. Hundreds of thousands were murdered, disappeared, or displaced. Entire villages were wiped off the map. This was a deliberate attempt to break the spirit of a people, to destroy their social fabric and their connection to the land, and yet they resisted. They hid. They remembered. They rebuilt. The scars are deep, yes, but so is the resolve. So, how do you not just survive, but thrive in the face of such adversity? This is where the true genius and unconquered spirit of the Maya shine brightest. It's through a multifaceted, relentless pursuit of cultural revitalization and political empowerment. Let's talk about language. We know the ancient Maya developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the pre-Columbian Americas. Today, over 30 distinct Maya languages are still spoken, each a living testament to that linguistic heritage. But these languages are under threat in many places. Children are still discouraged from speaking their ancestral tongues in schools. Yet, Maya communities are fighting back. They're developing immersion programs, creating dictionaries, publishing books, and even producing radio shows and films in their languages. I recently saw a news report about a group of Kichi Maya elders teaching their grandchildren traditional stories, ensuring that the wisdom embedded in their language isn't lost to the digital age. It's a beautiful, powerful act of defiance and continuity. And the arts? Oh, the Maya arts continue to be a vibrant expression of identity. The intricate weaving patterns you see in traditional Maya textiles aren't just pretty designs. They're codified histories, spiritual beliefs, and community identifiers, passed down through generations of women. Each thread, Each colour, each motif tells a story, and it's not static. Contemporary Maya artists are blending traditional techniques with modern aesthetics, creating new forms of expression that speak to both their heritage and their present-day experiences. Pottery, music, dance. These are not relics of the past. They are living traditions, evolving and adapting just as the Maya themselves have always done. What about spirituality? The ancient Maya worldview, deeply connected to the cosmos, the cycles of nature, and the veneration of ancestors, continues to inform the lives of many Maya people. While many also practice syncretic forms of Catholicism, blending it with indigenous beliefs, there's a powerful movement to reclaim and revitalize pre-colonial spiritual practices. Traditional healers, day keepers, and spiritual guides are working to educate younger generations, ensuring that these profound connections to the earth and the divine are understood and cherished. Imagine standing in a modern Maya village witnessing a ceremony that echoes practices performed thousands of years ago. It's a living bridge to the deep past, isn't it? Beyond culture, there's the fierce and courageous activism. Maya leaders, both men and women, are on the front lines, advocating for land rights, environmental protection, and political self-determination. They're organizing at local, national, and international levels, bringing their cases to human rights organizations and the United Nations. They're building their own political parties, running for office, and demanding a seat at the table. It's not just about survival, it's about justice, equity, and the right to define their own destiny. Consider the work of organizations like the Consejo de Pueblos Wuxtaj in Guatemala, or the Maya Leaders Alliance in Belize, who are fighting to protect traditional lands from corporate exploitation. These are not abstract battles. They are fights for clean water, fertile soil, and the very fabric of their communities. They are demonstrating that sustainable living, rooted in ancestral knowledge, offers critical lessons for the entire planet as we grapple with climate change and ecological crises. The Maya, after all, have managed their environment for millennia. They have a wisdom we desperately need to heed. And let's not forget the intellectual contributions. Maya scholars and intellectuals are challenging dominant historical narratives, writing their own histories and conducting groundbreaking research into their languages, astronomy, and agricultural practices. They are bringing their unique perspectives to global conversations on sustainability, human rights, and decolonization. They are not waiting for outsiders to tell their story. They are telling it themselves with power, nuance, and authenticity. One of the most profound shifts I've observed is the growing recognition of Maya intellectual property and traditional knowledge. For too long, outsiders have appropriated Maya designs, stories, and even medicinal plants without proper attribution or compensation. Now, Maya communities are asserting their rights, demanding respect for their cultural heritage and fair benefits for its use. It's a crucial step towards economic justice and cultural sovereignty. So when you hear someone talk about the quote 40 or the quote 41, I want you to remember this chapter. I want you to remember the millions of Maya people who are alive today, speaking their languages, practicing their traditions, and fighting for their future. The real mystery isn't why they disappeared, because they didn't. The real wonder is their enduring resilience, their adaptability, and their unwavering spirit in the face of millennia of challenges. They are a testament to the fact that civilization isn't just about monumental architecture or advanced calendars. Though the Maya certainly had those in spades, it's about a people's ability to maintain their identity, their worldview, and their connection to each other and to the land, even as the world around them undergoes seismic shifts. It's about the deep human need to create, to connect, and to thrive. The Maya story, my friends, is not one of collapse and disappearance. It is a story of continuous creation, of profound resilience, and of an unconquered spirit. It's a story that's still being written, right now, by millions of vibrant voices, and understanding this, truly understanding it, changes everything about how we view the past and how we understand the present. It offers us hope, and it offers us a challenge to listen, to learn, and to respect the enduring legacy of one of humanity's most extraordinary civilizations. This isn't just history. It's a living, breathing testament to the human spirit, and it's a reminder that the future of the Maya, like their past, is firmly in their own hands. We've journeyed through millennia, haven't we? From the earliest whispers of maize cultivation in the Preclassic to the monumental city-states of the Classic, through periods of collapse, renaissance, conquest, and post-colonial struggle. We've seen the Maya endure, adapt, and transform. But here's the thing that truly sets the Maya apart, the part of their story that's still being written right now as we speak, their future. For too long, the narrative of the Maya has been framed by their past. A glorious past, yes, but often presented as static, as if their story ended with the arrival of the Spanish or the collapse of some ancient kingdom. We've spent 9 chapters dismantling that myth, showing you that the Maya never vanished. Now let's talk about what it means to not just survive, but to thrive, to actively shape one's destiny in the 21st century. This isn't just about preserving remnants. It's about a vibrant, living civilization that continues to innovate, inspire, and influence. Think about this for a second. Millions of Maya people live across Mesoamerica today. Millions. They are mothers, fathers, artists, farmers, doctors, engineers, politicians, scholars, activists. They are not relics of a bygone era. They are the dynamic inheritors of an extraordinary legacy, actively engaged in a profound cultural renaissance. A symphony of voices, language revitalization. Let's start with language, because what is a culture without its voice? While Spanish is the official language in the countries where Maya people reside, the more than 30 distinct Maya languages are far from silent. In fact, there's an incredible movement underway to not just preserve these languages, but to revitalize them, to ensure they don't just exist in scholarly texts, but flourish in homes, schools, and digital spaces. Imagine the richness of a language that has evolved over thousands of years, carrying within it unique ways of understanding the world, specific knowledge about plants, stars, and human relationships. Losing a language isn't just losing words, it's losing entire epistemologies, entire ways of knowing. That's why Maya communities, often led by dedicated linguists and educators, are fiercely protecting their linguistic heritage. We see Maya language immersion schools, where children learn in Quiche, Kaqchikel, Yucatec, or Mam. There are new dictionaries being compiled, grammars being standardized, and literature being created, poetry, novels, even children's books, all in Maya languages. And it's not just in traditional settings. The digital age has opened new avenues. You'll find social media groups, YouTube channels, and even news outlets publishing in Maya languages. This isn't just a nostalgic endeavor. It's a powerful act of self-determination, a declaration that these languages are vital, relevant, and capable of expressing the complexities of modern life. It's truly inspiring to witness. Art as living history, weaving the future. Now let's talk about art. For the ancient Maya, art was never merely decorative. It was a profound form of communication, history, and spiritual expression. And this tradition continues with breathtaking vitality today. Take Maya textiles, for example. When you see a huipil, the traditional blouse worn by Maya women, or a woven sash, you're not just looking at a beautiful piece of clothing. You're looking at a narrative woven into existence. Each pattern, each colour, each thread carries generations of meaning, often specific to a particular village, family, or spiritual belief. Contemporary Maya weavers, predominantly women, are not just replicating ancient designs. They are innovating, blending traditional motifs with modern aesthetics, creating pieces that are both deeply rooted in history and strikingly contemporary. They are entrepreneurs, sustaining their families and communities through their artistry, often fighting for fair trade practices against exploitation. They are also cultural ambassadors, sharing the beauty and depth of their heritage with the world. But it's not just textiles. Maya artists are working in every medium imaginable: painting, sculpture, pottery, music, dance. There are Maya filmmakers telling their own stories, Maya musicians blending ancestral sounds with modern genres, and Maya playwrights bringing their narratives to the stage. This artistic explosion is a powerful testament to the creative spirit of the Maya, a direct link to the artists who adorned Tikal's temples and carved Palenque's stelae, reclaiming the sacred, spirituality in a modern world. Remember how we discussed the devastating efforts of the Spanish Inquisition to eradicate Maya spirituality? The burning of codices, the forced conversions, it was a concerted campaign to erase an entire worldview. But, as with everything else, the Maya resisted. They practiced their beliefs in secret, syncretizing elements with Catholicism, ensuring that the ancient wisdom survived. Today, we are witnessing a remarkable reclamation of ancestral spiritual practices. Maya spiritual guides, known as akje in some communities, are openly conducting ceremonies, interpreting the sacred calendars, and teaching younger generations about the profound connection between humanity, nature, and the cosmos. These aren't just quaint rituals, they are deeply meaningful practices that inform daily life, decision-making, and community well-being. The Maya worldview emphasizes cycles, interconnectedness, and a profound respect for the natural world. This isn't just a philosophical concept, it's a living, breathing ethic. We see this in their agricultural practices, in their understanding of medicinal plants, and in their ceremonies that honor the earth, the sun, and the ancestors. In an increasingly disconnected world, the wisdom embedded in Maya spirituality offers profound insights into how we might live more harmoniously with our planet and with each other. At the forefront, activism, rights, and global contributions. Beyond cultural revitalization, contemporary Maya people are powerful agents of change, actively engaged in political and social movements. Their history of resistance has forged a profound understanding of justice, self-determination, and human rights. One of the most critical areas of activism is land rights. For centuries, Maya communities have faced dispossession, their ancestral lands coveted for agriculture, logging, mining, or tourism development. But today, Maya activists and legal organizations are fighting tirelessly to secure land titles, protect communal lands, and ensure indigenous consent for any development projects. These lands are not just property. They are the foundation of Maya identity, culture, and economic survival. Protecting them is protecting the very essence of Maya civilization. Closely linked to land rights is environmental protection. Many Maya communities live in biodiverse regions, and they are often on the front lines of defending these ecosystems from exploitation. They are fierce advocates for sustainable forestry, organic agriculture, and the preservation of medicinal plants. Their traditional ecological knowledge, honed over millennia, is an invaluable resource in the global fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. When Maya leaders speak about the sacredness of the forest or the importance of clean water, they are not just articulating a belief. They are sharing a practical, time-tested wisdom that humanity desperately needs. And what about political empowerment? For too long, Maya voices were marginalized, excluded from national politics. But that is changing. We see a growing number of Maya representatives in national parliaments, in local governments, and in international forums like the United Nations. They are challenging discriminatory policies, advocating for indigenous rights, and ensuring that their perspectives are heard in discussions about development, education, and justice. This isn't just about having a seat at the table. It's about reshaping the table itself, demanding recognition and respect for pluralistic societies. Maya wisdom for a global future. This brings us to a crucial point. The contemporary Maya are not just asking for recognition, they are contributing to global conversations in profound ways. Their insights into cyclical time, sustainable living, community resilience, and the interconnectedness of all things offer vital perspectives on some of the most pressing challenges facing humanity today. Consider the climate crisis. While many industrialized nations grapple with the consequences of linear, extractive economic models, Maya communities have long understood the delicate balance between human activity and the environment. Their agricultural practices, their spiritual reverence for nature, and their emphasis on long-term stewardship provide tangible models for living sustainably. When a Maya elder speaks about Pachamama, Mother Earth, it's not just poetic language, it's a deep understanding of ecological reciprocity. Their history of resilience also offers lessons in adaptability and perseverance. Faced with environmental collapse, conquest, and systemic oppression, the Maya never gave up. They found ways to innovate, to preserve, to rebuild. This enduring spirit, this capacity for renewal, is a powerful message for a world grappling with uncertainty. The unfolding narrative, what does, quote, 43 mean? So, what does it mean to be, quote, 44? It doesn't mean shedding traditions for the sake of assimilation. It means a dynamic blend of the ancient and the new. It means Maya scientists using satellite imagery to study ancient agricultural systems, Maya artists using digital tools to create new expressions of their heritage, and Maya scholars engaging with global academic discourse while rooted in their own epistemologies. It means a young Maya person in Guatemala City, fluent in Spanish and their ancestral language, navigating the complexities of urban life while participating in traditional ceremonies on weekends. It means a Maya activist in Belize using social media to organize a protest against deforestation. It means Maya chefs experimenting with ancient ingredients in contemporary cuisine, sharing the flavors of their heritage with a wider audience. The challenges, of course, persist. Discrimination, economic disparities, the continued pressures of globalization, and the ongoing impacts of climate change are real and profound. But the narrative is no longer one of victimhood. It is one of agency, of strength, of a people actively building their future. The true mystery of the Maya, as we've said, isn't that they vanished. It's how they've endured, how they've adapted, and how, against all odds, they continue to flourish. Their story is a powerful reminder that civilization is not a static monument, but a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, constantly creating. The Maya are not just a chapter in history, they are a vibrant, unfolding narrative, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, and a beacon of wisdom for the world. And we, my friends, are incredibly fortunate to witness the unwritten chapters unfold before our very eyes, and so we arrive at today. Not at a dusty, forgotten ruin, but at a vibrant, pulsing civilization that continues to write its own story, one day, one generation, one ceremony at a time. We've journeyed through millennia, from the earliest stirrings of agriculture to the dizzying heights of classic period city-states, through the trials of collapse, the renaissance of the Postclassic, the brutal crucible of conquest, and the long, hard road of colonial and post-colonial oppression. But here's the thing that truly blows my mind, the incredible, undeniable truth that often gets lost in the romanticized myths. The Maya didn't just survive all of that. They are thriving. They are adapting, innovating, and perhaps most importantly, reclaiming. Think about this for a second. Millions of Maya people live across Mesoamerica right now. They aren't ghosts of the past. They are living, breathing inheritors of an extraordinary legacy. And what they are doing today, the cultural renaissance we touched upon, isn't just a quiet persistence. It's a powerful, intentional movement to revitalize, to educate, and to assert their identity on a global stage. Let's dive deeper into what this looks like, because it's a story of incredible human spirit, resilience, and profound wisdom that offers so much to our modern world. One of the most critical aspects of this modern resurgence is the fierce dedication to language revitalization. We've talked about how the Maya developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the ancient Americas, a direct link to their worldview and history. But centuries of Spanish imposition and later nationalistic policies promoting a single dominant language in countries like Guatemala and Mexico pushed many of the more than 30 distinct Mayan languages to the brink. Can you imagine losing the very words that shape your understanding of the world, the metaphors, the nuances, the ancestral knowledge embedded in every syllable? It's a cultural catastrophe that has played out for indigenous peoples globally. But the Maya are fighting back, and they are winning. This isn't just about preserving old tongues. It's about empowering future generations. We see community-led initiatives springing up everywhere. Parents are actively choosing to speak their ancestral languages at home, reversing decades of pressure to conform. Indigenous educators are developing curricula in Quiche, Cachiquel, Yucatec Maya, Mam, Tzutujil, and many others, often for the first time. Imagine children learning math, science, and history, not just in Spanish, but in the language of their grandparents, connecting them directly to a lineage of thought and wisdom that stretches back thousands of years. It's happening. Textbooks are being created, stories are being written, and digital platforms are being leveraged to share these languages with a wider audience. My friends, this is a monumental undertaking, a testament to the fact that language is not just communication. It is culture, identity, and a profound connection to the past and future. It's an active defiance against the idea that their languages are dead or primitive. They are vibrant, evolving, and essential. Beyond language, the cultural and artistic renaissance is a feast for the senses, a living tapestry woven with threads of ancient tradition and contemporary innovation. When you think of Maya art, perhaps your mind immediately goes to the intricate carvings on temple walls or the polychrome pottery of the classic period. And yes, those are masterpieces. But walk through a market in Chichicastenango, Guatemala, or a cooperative in the Yucatan, and you'll see a living art form that is just as breathtaking: the textiles. Maya weaving is not merely a craft, it is a profound form of historical record, spiritual expression, and community identity. Each huipil, traditional blouse, or court, skirt, tells a story through its colors, patterns, and symbols. Specific designs can identify a weaver's village, their marital status, or even their worldview. For centuries, these traditions were passed down mother to daughter, an unbroken chain of knowledge. Today, these traditions are not only being preserved but also adapted. Weavers are forming cooperatives, gaining economic independence, and bringing their stunning creations to global markets. They are experimenting with new dyes, new patterns, while still honoring the ancient techniques and meanings. This isn't stagnation, it's dynamic evolution, ensuring that this living art form continues to breathe and adapt, connecting the past to the present in a tangible, beautiful way. And it's not just textiles. Pottery, music, dance, storytelling, all are experiencing a powerful revitalization. Artists are drawing inspiration from ancient iconography, infusing contemporary works with ancestral wisdom. Musicians are blending traditional instruments and rhythms with modern sounds, creating new expressions of Maya identity. This isn't just about creating beautiful objects, it's about asserting cultural pride, strengthening community bonds, and ensuring that the rich artistic heritage of the Maya continues to inspire and evolve. Perhaps one of the most profound aspects of this contemporary movement is the bare reclamation of spiritual heritage. For centuries, traditional Maya spiritual practices were demonized, suppressed, and driven underground by the Spanish Inquisition and later by various Christian denominations. Sacred texts were burned, ceremonies were forbidden, and spiritual leaders were persecuted. Yet, the Maya adapted. They often wove their ancient beliefs into the fabric of Catholicism, creating a unique syncretic blend that allowed their traditions to persist, albeit in modified forms. But today, there is a powerful and open resurgence of traditional Maya spirituality. You see it in the re-establishment of ancient ceremonies at sacred sites, once again connecting people to the cosmic rhythms and ancestral energies that shaped their civilization for millennia. day keepers, the spiritual guides who interpret the sacred calendar, are openly practicing and teaching, sharing their profound understanding of time, destiny, and humanity's place in the universe. We see the revival of rituals honoring the ancestors, the earth, and the various deities that govern the natural world. This isn't about rejecting modern faith. It's about reclaiming a spiritual path that is intrinsically linked to their land, their history, and their identity. It's a powerful act of self-determination, recognizing that their spiritual wisdom is not only valid, but deeply relevant to the challenges of our time. Think about the profound connection to nature, the cyclical understanding of time, the emphasis on balance and reciprocity. These are ancient Maya tenets that resonate deeply with modern ecological and philosophical concerns. And this brings us to the environmental and political advocacy that has become a cornerstone of the modern Maya struggle. We've talked about the ingenuity of the ancient Maya in managing their environment, developing sophisticated agricultural techniques to sustain vast populations in challenging landscapes. They understood the delicate balance between human needs and ecological limits. This deep, ancestral connection to the land continues to inform the Maya today, placing them at the forefront of environmental protection efforts in Mesoamerica. Maya communities are often on the front lines against destructive mining projects, large-scale agribusiness, and unchecked deforestation. Their lands, rich in biodiversity and natural resources, are frequently targeted for exploitation by national and international corporations. But the Maya are not passive victims. They are organizing, protesting, and using legal and political means to defend their ancestral territories. They advocate for land rights, for consultation on projects affecting their communities, and for the recognition of their traditional ecological knowledge. Their struggle for land is not merely economic, it is deeply spiritual and cultural, as the land is integral to their identity, their history, and their future. Leaders like Rigoberta Menchú Tum, a Quiché Maya woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work on indigenous rights during the Guatemalan Civil War, have brought global attention to these struggles. But it's not just Nobel laureates, it's countless community leaders, activists, and everyday people who are standing up for their rights, often at great personal risk. They are forming indigenous political parties, advocating for constitutional reforms, and demanding greater autonomy and self-determination within their respective nations. Their voices are growing louder, and they are increasingly being heard on international platforms, sharing their experiences and advocating for indigenous rights globally. So what does this all mean for us? The people journeying through this incredible history? The story of the modern Maya is not just a fascinating epilogue. It is a vital, ongoing chapter that holds profound lessons for humanity. First, it's a lesson in resilience. After millennia of challenges, from environmental shifts to brutal conquest and systemic oppression, the Maya persist. They show us the incredible capacity of human culture to adapt, to innovate, and to endure. They remind us that civilization is not a fragile thing that simply, quote, 48, and disappears. It is a dynamic, living entity that transforms and continues. Second, it's a lesson in Maya cultural preservation and revitalization. In a world increasingly homogenized by global media and consumer culture, the Maya demonstrate the power and importance of maintaining distinct cultural identities. They show us that diversity is not a weakness, but a profound strength, a wellspring of different ways of seeing, understanding, and interacting with the world. Their efforts to revitalize languages, arts, and spiritual practices offer a blueprint for other indigenous communities facing similar challenges. Third, and perhaps most critically for our present global moment, it's a lesson in sustainable living and environmental stewardship. The ancient Maya, for all their achievements, eventually faced environmental challenges that contributed to the decline of their classic period cities. But their deep spiritual connection to the land, their understanding of cyclical time, and their traditional ecological knowledge offer invaluable insights into how we might better live in harmony with our planet. They are not just fighting for their land. They are fighting for a healthier future for all of us. The Maya are not a, quote, 49 civilization, nor are they merely a relic of the past. They are a living testament to the enduring human spirit, a beacon of cultural richness and intellectual depth. They are scientists, artists, farmers, spiritual leaders, activists, and innovators. They are our contemporaries, sharing this planet with us and offering wisdom that has been honed over thousands of years. Their story is not over. It is unfolding right now, in the bustling markets, in the quiet villages, in the digital spaces, and in the hearts of millions of people who proudly identify as Maya. And it is a story that demands our attention, our respect, and our understanding. Because to understand the Maya today is to understand a crucial part of humanity's past, present, and indeed its future.